Yes. I think, sir, thank you very much, first of all, for sparing time to speak to us about Botswana. And I think it comes from me and the staff and Botswana for 44 years really, yes, you've given to us, to Botswana. Yes. Your comment on that?
Well, I'm grateful that I have contributed in my small way to the growth of the jurisprudence of the country over the past 44 years. Yeah.
But for the millennials, they probably, I don't know how, don't know your track record. Could you just briefly just take us through your journey leading up to yesterday when you bid farewell to the judicial? Not the legal fraternity, I'm told, yeah, but just the judiciaries.
Oh, just the judiciary. Yes. Well, I was first invited to the bench in 2005, and I worked there at that time I worked on an acting basis because I was running a practice and I wasn't keen to abandon my practice and be a judge. But with time, after 2 years, I decided, look, do I really want to go back to practice? And that's when I was appointed on a permanent basis. Yes.
But before that, you acceded to one of the highest, yes, in terms of the Deputy Attorney General.
Yes. Actually, I was in private practice for a number of years. And then I was invited by the former president, late President Masile, to join the Attorney General's chambers. And so was my partner then, the late Julian Ganunu. He was invited to go to the bench. So the two of us had to leave our firm, and I joined the Attorney General's chambers as a Deputy Attorney General. And he went to the bench. That was in 1992. I worked at the Attorney General's chambers until 2003, when I retired, actually. I retired. By that time, I was 50 years old, I believe. So I retired in 2003, went into business for a year, and then I decided, no, I want to go back to my profession. So I set up a firm called Tafa and Company in 2004. Yes.
Okay. It's interesting that you use the word retired.
Yes.
But what the information that we have, and then which I hope will clear, is that you actually overlooked for the highest position, that of the Attorney General. What was happening at the time, sir?
No, I was acting Attorney General and there was no substantive Attorney General. That is after Skelemani had retired. So I remained acting Attorney General for some time, but the powers that be appointed somebody else to the post.
So it was a frustrating time, was it?
You know, that post was a political appointee, so sometimes you will be overlooked, not because you are incompetent, not because people don't like you, but because they will feel more comfortable working with somebody else. Yeah. And so I just took it. They were happier with the other person.
We'll get to the political appointments in a little bit. Yeah. Speaking of still on your track record, sir, you know, as a student myself, I was first introduced to your good work, and I'm sure you have done a lot before that.
Yes.
During this Dudu case, where you actually literally got it for Botswana.
Yes.
Take us through back to that time and just paint a picture for those who might not be aware.
Yes. At that time, I was a Deputy Attorney General, and I was tasked with handling the Sidudu matter because it had reached a stage whereby the two presidents, that is the president of Botswana and the president of Namibia, had agreed that the matter has to go to the International Court of Justice and that they would abide by the decision of the International Court of Justice. So I was appointed to be the lead of the team. I was the leader of the team. So I led the team, which comprised of people from various disciplines. Some of them were experts in water science. They were engineers. Others were historians, like the likes of Jeff Ramsey. And so when the matter was ripe, I was also assisted, I must say, by some Professor Ian Brownlee, who was a lecturer a professor at Oxford University. He was there to assist me. I was the leader, but he knew more about the procedures at the International Court of Justice than I did. But I was the leader anyway. The buck stopped with me. I was the leader of the team. We went through all the pleadings and everything, and ultimately we went to the International Court of Justice, where I presented our case as the leader. He also assisted in a way because he also presented a certain chapter in our submissions. And there were others also, some historians who also said their bit about what they knew about the island. So it was a team, but I was the leader of the team. Yes, and ultimately, of course, the International Court of Justice agreed with us. Yes.
Speaking of progressive, stance in our legal fraternity, just recently, I think in 2019 again, 2019 is or 2020, I'm just mistaken on the dates. Again, you delivered yet another historic landmark ruling.
Yes.
That of the lesbians and gays community.
Yes.
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 Take us to that time as well.
Well, that is a case where I appeared with Justice Luburu, who is the one who wrote our judgment. It's a judgment of all of us, but it was written by Justice Luburu, who did a lot of research on the matter. We felt at the time that the time had come for us to decriminalize homosexuality, sex between people of the same gender. And we thought the time was ripe because the world over, really, that was the way people were going. And at any rate, it didn't make sense to us that you will say, I have a freedom of choice, and yet you don't allow me to do what I want to do with another adult, consenting adult. So we agreed, the three of us, we agreed that we had to rule the way the case went. Whoever hasn't accepted that will always go back to the Bible. They will tell you about the Bible and all that. But we are saying, see, times have changed. Yeah. And at any rate, the Bible was written by some person, and I suspect it was a man. And so it was, to me, I don't think that we should hide behind a religion. We've got freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution. And the Constitution, for a judge, the Constitution is the guiding piece of legislation. You see, even my oath, my allegiance is not to the president, but to the Constitution of Botswana. So we believed that there might be backlash from people, but as a judge you must be prepared for that. You know, there will be those who like your judgment and there will be those who don't like your judgment. And that is the life of a judge.
Yes.
Yes.
Speaking of the Constitution, the law right now is currently on the process of reviewing the very Constitution that we talk about now. Do you have any pointers that you, at this point, willing to share that you feel should be looked at as a matter of agency?
Oh, you know, there are lots, but I think I have to defer to the collective. We agreed when I was a judge as to what submissions to make, and we have made submissions. It's the administration of justice, and I think I respect that, and I don't think I should be the one to say what the submissions were. But personally, at the personal level, I mean, there's a lot that needs to be done. Our Constitution, I think we have reached a stage where we have to have, for instance, a president that is elected by the people. I feel very strongly about that. There is also the matter of tribalism. I think we should be very clear in our Constitution, as the President has always stated, that we are all equal. I think the Constitution must be clear to make sure that every tribe is recognized in the Constitution. Yes, that is it. You know, we are very like in Botswana, because unlike in other African countries, there is so much intermarriage that we should really not be talking about tribalism anymore. But the fact of the matter is that people must be free to be taught in their own languages. You know, you don't bring about unity by forcing people to behave as if they are from one type. Let them be free to speak their languages, but they will know that first and foremost they are Botswana. You know. Yes. So that is the other matter that I would like to, so that there is representation of all tribes in the House of Chiefs on an equal footing. Yes.
Still on that note, and please advise if you are a little bit uncomfortable.
Yes.
In 2019, again, we had, you know, the courts were very busy with political parties and political or member of parliament hopefuls.
Yes.
Feeling aggrieved, saying, look, no, I feel cheated. There were words thrown around like election rigging. Yes. You know, and there was a sort of a bit of uncertainty as to what is really happening to Botswana, which has been hailed for a very long time as one of the most peaceful nations in Botswana.
Yes.
Can you take us through that time, or as a judge, what's going through your mind at that time?
You see, I was wearing two hats at the time. I was chairperson of the IEC, and so I could not, at the time, I could not sit in any one of those matters as a judge because I was a respondent. There were some people that felt that they had been cheated, but unfortunately they were not able, for technical reasons, to articulate their cases because the court could not listen. Well, I'm not saying the courts were wrong. The courts could not listen to the petitions or hear the petitions because technically they were not properly before the court. So I wouldn't say much except that certainly there were people who felt aggrieved. Whether they were genuinely aggrieved or not, it will remain unknown to us. Yes.
But for somebody who is not aware of court processes and technical things that you speak of that we saw on television, because I think that was one of the first cases that was televised.
Yes.
For Botswana to see. Don't you think it's time that, our courts sort of overlook certain technicalities, especially when we have such cases before it, such petitions before it, and I know it has done that before in other cases. Don't you think it was time, especially to test our democracy, whether, we are ready for such? Don't you think it would be wise for...
You see, courts are creatures of statute, and the statute says this is how you do it, and we do it that way. It's like I might not like a death sentence, but for as long as it's in our statute, I will impose it in appropriate cases. So bending over backwards to accommodate certain situations can only be done within the confines of the law. You see, there were rules of court that regulate procedure. And if they are there, and then you bend the rules, there will be another party that will complain.
Of course.
Yeah.
There's a concern that more than ever, our judiciary, as it is now, is porous. There's a lot of political infiltration. There's a lot of bribes that are being thrown around. What is your view on that?
Yes. I've heard some people, but if you are in the judiciary, you don't have many friends. There could be some truth in it. I don't know. I've not heard of anybody that has been bribed. There have been allegations that some officials may have been bribed in order to place matters before particular judges. I have not heard anybody coming out to say a judge has been bribed to come up with this. Well, on social media they will say, Ujile. I've seen that in social media, but I don't know who says that and the reasons for that. If anybody has the information, it would be a good idea just to give it to the relevant officers. You go to the Chief Justice, and then the Chief Justice can cause an investigation to be carried out. But if it is the case, of course, I do condemn it. Yeah. If there is that...
is there a concern of political infiltration?
There is also concern of political infiltration, but I want to be very clear to you. I, as a judge, have never been approached by any politician to decide one way or the other for the entire 17 years that I have been a judge. But there are allegations that, like what I see in the papers currently, and this time around, of course, it's a judge that says this is what happened. To me, that's something that is worth investigating. Yes.
Speaking of the law and your most recent judgment last week, if not the week before last,
yes,
you delivered you sentenced someone
to death. Yes. Yes.
What are your honest views now that you are no longer in the bench? What are your honest views about the death penalty?
I've heard a lot of people saying death penalty is not good because it's not a deterrent. If you remove one criminal who you feel has done wrong to society, and the law says the punishment is death. Even now, when I'm not a judge, I don't see anything wrong with that. At least you will not commit the offense again. All right?
But some on the other fence will say there are times where there's been a mistake and somebody now is gone and you can't get
Well,
that person back.
That is, it has never happened in Botswana, and I can assure you, when I said and sentenced somebody to death, there would be absolutely no doubt that they committed the offense. I might be wrong in finding that there are no extenuating circumstances. But there's always a court of appeal to look into that.
Yeah.
But as to the guilt of the person, I always had a clear case, a clear conscience. And it is very rare that we sentence people to death. It is really for cases where they themselves also do not deny that they committed the offense.
Yeah.
So I sleep with a very clear conscience that this person has himself admitted that they've committed the offense.
Speaking of conscience and still on the death penalty,
Yeah.
what goes through your mind the day before or minutes before actually delivering such a sentence?
It never crosses my mind. It's just like delivering a judgment where I give damages to one party and not the other. Yes. With our type kind of training, you get to be just passionate about these things. Yeah.
And now that yesterday you bid farewell to the court.
Yes.
For now.
Yes.
What legacy do you think you've left behind, and what legacy would you want to have left behind?
What legacy have I left behind? I think I leave that to the other people to judge. Even in my judgments, as a judge, there's a stamp. You have stamps where you, after delivering a judgment, you stamp it whether it is reportable or readable or what. I've always refused to do that. I say it is up to those who report to read my judgment and decide whether this is worth reporting or not. So as for what I left, all I know is that I did my best. If I was incompetent, I did my incompetent best. And I live with a very clean conscience in the sense that I do not leave any pending judgments. And I have never in my entire career been queried for delaying a judgment.
Is there anything you want to add that you think we left out in our discussion?
I was going to say, thanks God it's Friday, but for me it will be Friday throughout. So I thought it was a Friday today still already, because I'm not at work. I said, it's Friday.
It's Friday.
Yes, because I used to take Friday afternoons off. Yes.
To read page 3 of the book.
Yeah, page 3 is my favorite. No. She's not. I do that just to tease my staff.
Yeah.
When the paper comes, I say, well, let me see page 3, just to tease my staff. And so yes.